Alright, so I'm going to start with Aatrox. I'm going to go through all the junglers that I feel like can be played. So I'm going to go through Aatrox. Aatrox's clear speed is... Actually, hold on, let me do this real quick. This will be 4.9 jungle tier list. Let me get rid of this. Hold on, before people, so people know what we're doing in progress. So this is for solo queue, by the way, only solo queue. Not that, oh my gosh. Alright, so Aatrox, his clear isn't awful if you decide to max your E. Generally I max my W just for a little bit extra burst, but you can max your E and your clear won't be too bad. His ganks aren't bad either early game, so that's good for him. I can generally go behind the target. He has a knock up and a slow from behind. And he also has his passive, so you can turret dive early on and stuff like that. Now, the issues I have with Aatrox, where he's not tier 1, is because he gets out skirmished by a lot of junglers early. Like, imagine Elise versus Aatrox, or like Elise versus Aatrox, or anything versus Aatrox, really. Like, kind of just destroys him. So he loses a lot of skirmishes now, ever since he kind of got nerfed. And, dude, alright, turn it down. Hold up. There. You can't complain about that. That's not even hearable. So he is, he's not the best skirmisher. He can turret dive, so you can't get an early first blood with him. Towers you can't really get as early as you used to be able to, which kind of sucks, so he's not much use for getting early towers. But yeah, so you can do that, but again, is really not that good for skirmishing. Also has an issue where he kind of stays low in his jungle, and what I mean by low is like usually 3/4 or less he'll stay in his jungle, so that's kind of annoying as well. Now another huge issue with Aatrox is mid to late game. He doesn't transition really well into that, so because he just gets kited and just CC'd and instantly Aatrox is a really bad mid to late game champion. So that's just that. So Aatrox, if I had to place him somewhere, I'd honestly probably place him in, I think I'd place him in about tier 3. Yeah, I honestly don't see like why you'd play Aatrox over any of the other high damage junglers. So we'll keep him here. I might change him a little bit. Like if I put like 5 junglers in tier 2 and I feel like Aatrox might be like kind of in the same category, I might change it. But for now, we'll put him in tier 3. Amumu's an interesting champion. He's one of the few utility junglers that is kind of still survives. Like, he can actually survive a lot of the damage junglers like Elise, Lee Sin, and so on. So he does very well in that sense. He also has a really good scaling late game. His clear speed is pretty good. His, early game damage isn't the greatest, but he can put up a fight, so that's pretty good. So Amumu, what else is there actually to say about him? Also, objective control, he does do % health damage with his W, so he's pretty good in that sense also. So he's pretty, yeah, I'm gonna actually have to add tier 1.5, I have to. 0.5. He is pretty good in the sense, of all that stuff, but he has the issue of being vulnerable early. If you do manage to get, killed early or whatever, it's kind of hard to come back as a Amumu, actually very hard to come back as a Amumu, since he's really, I'd say, item dependent in a way. He does have good base damage, but the thing about item dependency is, like, if you just, let's say invaded early, 5-man invaded, or whatever it is, you just get killed in your jungle, it's just a really hard champion to come back from, or come back with, and, you just find yourself having trouble. Like, he's not the best for escaping, like, his mobility isn't the greatest. You might say, oh, well, he has his Q. Yeah, he usually does have his Q, but generally you're using his Q to clear the camp, plus you're not going to be able to use your Q to escape most of the time anyways. So he's kind of vulnerable there too. But overall, he's a pretty solid champion. I still would play him. I have been playing him, so I think Amumu would be, like, just under tier 1. He'd be 1.5. So what else is there? Brand. We'll rate Brand too. The thing with Brand is, the main issue with Brand is his vulnerability early game. He can get killed very easily early game. He takes a lot of damage from his jungler early on. He doesn't win a lot of the matchups early. Like, I think Lee Sin would kind of crush him, and Elise and stuff like that. Maybe even Eve. So there's, like, if you miss your stun, you're screwed, basically. So I wouldn't place Brand too high for that reason. But if you do get going with him, he has a decent clear speed, especially with the more AP you get, the faster your clear speed. He has pretty good objective control, even though he doesn't have % health damage because of his ulti. He's able to get it off in fights and, like, near Dragon Pit or Baron Pit or whatever, so he's pretty good for that. He's also good for poking late game. his late game overall is really solid. Like you guys have seen my brand games before. Like once you get to late game, you have Rylai's, Deathcap, Void, Zonias, and all that stuff. Like you become a huge threat that people need to kill you. You're basically like worse than a Karthus, because if they don't instantly kill you, you get some spells off. Like they're all like basically dead. So, rate brand. I said rate brand. Rate. But yeah, if you miss out on your blue early, you get screwed. If you fall behind, it's not too hard to come back as brand, but again, he's pretty vulnerable early. That's the main issue with him. His ganks aren't bad if you're able to not get counter ganked. If you do get counter ganked, it's very hard to escape, because your only escape is stunning someone or flashing. So overall, I'd place brand in probably tier 2, a little bit above Aatrox. It's kind of weird seeing it because it's kind of an unconventional pick, but I honestly do think he belongs a little bit higher than that. Cho'Gath. Let's just skip Cho'Gath for now. We might go back to him. Elise. I don't even need to explain this. Elise is very good. I've been saying this even though she's been even when she was nerfed, like the Q was nerfed, people were saying, "Oh, Elise is no longer good," and everyone stopped playing Elise, and Elise had like a 20 or like a 35% win rate or whatever. Elise has been good this entire time. She has a lot of utility, especially with her buff to her E and stuff like that. She has a lot of damage. Her late game is incredible. Her early game is incredible. You have a kit that can dive and get you out safely, and that's every 20 seconds. So unlike Aatrox, which is every 300 seconds or whatever, it's like every 20 seconds you can dive somebody. It's insane. Clear speed's pretty good, especially if you max your W second like I do. Objective control is amazing. You do percent health damage. Ganks are amazing. Everything about Elise is amazing. Like there's nothing wrong with Elise right now, in my opinion. She's really good. So yeah, I just put Elise there. Like there's nothing much else to say about it. Eve, same story. Evelyn's really strong. You're basically free to gank whatever you want early game, since no one really buys pink wards at level 1. And the late game is amazing. She can tank for a long time. You have a really good ulti to slow everybody and get a huge shield from it. Objective control isn't too bad. Farm speed, she is probably one of the fastest farmers, one of the fastest clearers early on, which is very cool because what you can actually do is you can actually do like, let's say like the enemy starts their blue buff, right? Like just imagine this: your blue side, their purple side. They start blue, you start blue. You can literally just walk to the red, take it even before he gets to his red after his blue. Like that's how fast you are. You're actually really fast jungling. So that's pretty good of her. So yeah, overall Eve is really strong. I'm kind of not explaining too much about Eve and Elise because it's kind of given. Like they're just really good. We'll talk about matchups and stuff later on in probably another video, but for now we'll just go with this. Fiddlesticks, I'd say is tier 1, really strong. He does have vulnerabilities, such as Elise. I think Elise does really well versus him, for the most part. Some people think like, oh no, Elise doesn't do well because you can still drain even though she repels. It's not really the point. The point is you can cocoon him and stun him from afar so he can't fear you away, and then do a huge burst of damage. And then if he does try to run away, you can repel back onto him and try to kill him. Like you'll outdamage his drain for the most part, and you have better. Well, you don't have really better objective control. Fiddle has really good objective control because of his ulti. If you deny Vision of Dragon and you set up some wards, it's a free dragon. If they walk in, they're walking into a death sentence. It's just they're gonna die to your ulti. So it's really strong. Late game Fiddle is amazing. I'm going A to Z, by the way. Hold on, let me just write this so people. Going in A to Z order. So Fiddle, for the most part, really good. Again, his vulnerabilities, he doesn't do too well versus Elise for the most part. He outscales a lot of people, or most junglers late game. I've actually been playing the Karthus Fiddle matchup, and I think Fiddle kind of counters Karthus because you can just go in, kill Karthus easily because Karthus doesn't build MR usually, and just Zonia, and just like, alright, well, peace Karthus. Yeah, you might kill him in return, but still, like, he just killed you. So Fiddle's not too bad in that sense either. Drain really good, sustain's good. Objective control, he can, just tank Baron and Dragon forever if he has enough points in W and a little bit of armor. So yeah, that's about Fiddle. I think he's really strong and just underplayed. Not gonna do Fiora Fizz. Not gonna do any of these. Hecarim. Okay, so Hecarim. Welcome TBH Lol 12. Thank you so much for subbing. Welcome, dude. Welcome. Anyways, alright, Hecarim is a farm jungler. So generally you'll be playing the champion and you'll just be farming up all game. and scale really well into late game and just be a monster late game. Now the issue with this is he has a really poor early game. His early game clear isn't the greatest. Gets a lot better once you get points in queue, but his early game clear isn't the greatest, and he also loses a lot of matchups early. Like he loses to Lee, Elise, Eve, loses basically to everybody early on because he just doesn't offer as much damage as they do. So if you can survive the early game, you will, and you know, just farm up your items. It's kind of like a must to get a Lizard and a Trinity or a Gauntlet, like Lizard Trinity or Lizard Gauntlet, just so you can become a threat to the carries. So that's a lot of gold that you need to farm up, including boots and stuff like that. So you can gank with Hecarim. His ganks aren't bad, but overall, you know, you counter gank, you might get screwed, and he loses a lot of matchups to like Lee Sin and and Eve. Objective control isn't the greatest either. He doesn't have percent health damage. He does have his ulti, but still, you know, there's other junglers who have better objective control. Hecarim used to be played against Nautilus a lot because Hecarim was really good versus him. Since like if they ever ran into a 2v2, what Hecarim's Q would do is it would take off Nautilus's W while he's focusing another target. So Nautilus would stop doing DPS. It'd be like literally like a minion hitting you, like Nautilus would being a minion, and then like another person. So in the 2v2s, so he's pretty good in that sense. But yeah, he has a lot of issues in the, you know, that he gets poor early game. You farm up a lot. Late game, yeah, you can be a beast, but I mean, if you're gonna farm up a lot, just play Karthus, in my opinion. I think Karthus is better, and he doesn't have as much trouble as Hecarim does early game. So I'd place Hecarim probably. He's gotten better ever since. He's gotten better ever since the Pharaoh Flare junglers got nerfed. It'd be either tier 2 or 1.5. I think tier 2 is where he'd belong, though, honestly, because I just can't compare him to Amumu. I think Amumu is a lot better. So. Alright, so Jarvan. Jarvan, I think, is in tier 1. Because he has pretty good clear, very aggressive early, good mobility, great late game. He offers knockups, slows, armor shred, attack speed, a terrain. He offers so much late game. Constant shields if you're with your W. Yeah, it's just a really big threat. Jarvan's been really good recently. His passive does percent health, which is nice, every 6 seconds on the same target, and it got buffed recently. So he's looking really good. He used to have trouble against champions like Kha'Zix and stuff, but like Kha'Zix got nerfed, so he's getting played less and stuff like that. So I still would recommend that people that want to play Jarvan do it now. Like he's still worth playing. He's really good. Objective control. I mean, he has his percent health on his auto, so it's not bad. Again, you can do like double knockups with 10% CDR or higher and stuff like that. So, Diana, Irelia, tier 1.9. Guys, I'm not gonna do Diana, Irelia right now. Like, if I'm gonna go through the main ones, if I find that I skip something that I can rate, I'll go back to it. Like, I'm gonna skip Jax because I haven't played Jax. I'm not gonna rate it. But yeah. So that's where I think Jarvan belongs. Overall, he's pretty solid. Karthus. Karthus, another unpopular pick, just like Jarvan and Fiddle. I think Karthus is also a tier 1 jungler. He has some of the fastest clear times as well. He can fight almost any jungler 1v1. If you get good at your Qs, you can easily kill people when they're running up to you. He has trouble against Elise, kind of like Fiddle does, which is kind of interesting because they're both kind of similar. Well, whatever, we'll talk about that later. But he has sometimes trouble versus Elise because Elise can just like cocoon him, burst him down, repel when he's dead, or repel her his ultimate completely. So she's pretty good versus him. And has kind of similar scaling to late game. Like Karthus is the hardest scaling late game by far, but Elise is kind of close, you know. It's because of all her utility that she offers. But I guess fast clear, very good objective control. Because you can, you know, once you get your Spectral Wraith and you have Spell Vamp coins, you can easily just solo Dragon. You have a global ultimate, you can just keep pressing your ult whenever you find someone low. He can start ganking at level 4 when you get your wall, which is not bad. So his ganks aren't horrible. What else is there? Again, just a hard scaling late game champion. Like, he is very strong. Once you get your Archangels, you're basically like really strong, can just kill people like easily, so, and you'll snowball really hard with him. yeah, that's about it. I mean, he's just overall really strong. I know his Q got fixed, the bug, but he's still, you know, pretty high up there. Kale? I don't know if I can rate Kale. I don't play Kale anymore. I haven't played Kale since the nerf, so I don't want to actually... I don't want to rate Kale. Since I haven't played since the nerf. Alright, Kha'Zix. Oh my. Now, I saw some Kha'Zix players start maxing W, evolve W first, and all these different things. I tried so many different things on him too. Overall, I don't think he's very good. I don't think he's tier 1 anymore. At best, I'd place him where Amumu is. You can still play him, but it's just not the same anymore. Like, either they need to revert his isolation on his Q, the range of it, or revert the damage reduction on his ulti. But yeah, since he doesn't have either of those, you're basically forced to kind of like play like a damage assassin champion style, where you just build a ton of damage and just hope that you don't get focused and killed, which generally does happen anyway. So he's still okay. Like, he does decent amount of damage early. His Q actually does less damage at level 1 than your auto attack does, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is, I guess. I'm gonna rate him honestly 1.5 because I still think he is Kha'Zix. He does still have that, you know, high burst damage. He's still really strong in that sense if you can use it correctly. Has pretty good objective control. If you evolve your Q, you can do dragons and barons pretty fast. Clear time isn't awful. Early on it's not the greatest, but it gets a little bit better. If you get some kills, you'll snowball pretty hard. So I think Kha'Zix honestly is probably tier 1.5. I don't think he's very high up there anymore. Okay, now this is probably going to be the most controversial champion that I'm going to rate, Lee Sin. Lee Sin is probably the most popular jungler in the game, like, by far. And in my opinion, it's probably the hardest jungler to play correctly. And the thing about Lee Sin is he offers a really good early game, very good ganks, decent clear, high mobility, and so on and stuff like that. Very strong early game. Has good objective control, can do percent health damage, and stuff like that, and can be a threat late game as well. But the main issue I have with Lee Sin is he does lose some matchups early, like he loses against Pantheon, and he can lose against Elise. He can lose versus Wukong. It's kind of, well, let's not even say Wukong. Yeah, forget that. But he can lose against Elise and does lose versus Pantheon, like always. And which, you know, Pantheon's a pretty popular pick still. So that's not the reason I'd rate him under tier 1. The reason I would rate him tier 1 is in solo queue. I find that a lot of Lee Sins you can get fed as Lee Sin, but the problem with him is it's hard to carry with him late game, mid to late game transition. If you're a flawless Lee Sin player, you can probably pull stuff off. But for the most part, to consistently do it, I feel like Lee Sin just too reliant on his team, which is why I wouldn't rate him tier 1 as a jungle solo queue. Just because you can kick someone in and it might not even result in a kill, and you might just die for it. Like in competitive play, he is a godlike jungler. Competitive play, there is nothing that matches. Well, I shouldn't say that nothing matches Lee Sin. Lee Sin and Eve are pretty good, but like I think Lee Sin is probably the best jungler in the game when it comes to competitive play, because he offers so much pressure, because the teams know what to do with it. But late game Lee Sin, you really have to rely on your team. I mean, you can kite backwards, but if you're gonna kite backwards as Lee, I feel like there's other better picks. Now, don't get me wrong, Lee's still pretty good. Like, he's pretty good against Wukong, and does okay versus certain champs, but overall, I don't think I can rate him tier 1. I know it's weird, but I don't think so. So, I'm gonna actually rate him tier 1.5. Where is it? That's for solo queue. So, I know it's gonna be pretty controversial, but that's where I think he belongs right now. What are we at now? And my opinion on him might change in the future, but for now, it's gonna stick there. Alright, we'll talk about Nocturne. We can do Maokai, I guess. Honestly, should I even talk about Maokai? Wow, we have a really good team. As long as Shifter mids, we have a really good team. If Shifter plays support like you always do, then yeah, that's not gonna be good. Alright, Maokai, I mean, I'd probably place him where Aatrox is. He has the same problem as Aatrox. The thing about Maokai is, he's an okay clear speed, and a decent base damage early on, but he doesn't scale really well late game, doesn't scale too well with items, and and does, you know, have some tough matchups. Like, you know, just a lot of junglers can just kind of bully him around. Plus his ganks, you know, are good, but you can get baited with your ganks. Like if you W and they flash like in their tower or flash towards their jungler, you get screwed, which isn't really reliable. Objective control isn't the greatest either, because I feel like his ulti costs too much mana to actually make it useful for like dragon and stuff. You can use it, but like it still costs a lot of mana. But yeah, main reason late game isn't the greatest. He doesn't scale that hard, and for whatever reason, items just don't, like, items feel useless on him. I don't know why. It's just and just is very vulnerable early, or not very, but is vulnerable early. So yeah, that's where I'd place Maokai. Honestly, I wouldn't place him any higher. I'm doing A to Z, guys, so I'm not gonna do Nautilus or Nessus. We can do Nautilus. Actually, where would Nautilus even go? Oops. Rand, Hecarim. I'd say Nautilus goes here too. His clear speed isn't the greatest early, but if you get what generally you want to do on Nautilus is you want to get 2 points in your W as fast as possible, which is level 3, and then gank at 4. If you're able to get to level 3, you're pretty strong, and a lot of people won't be able to bully you. Main issue with him is he is vulnerable to level 3. He gets out damaged, you know. Even at level 6, he gets out damaged really hard. Like imagine like Elise or something, like trying to fight a Nautilus. Like it's ridiculous. So he gets out skirmished really hard. Objective control isn't that great. What else can I say about him? Late game is pretty strong, but I mean, to get to late game, it's not even like the strongest late game. He's just decent late game, so I just place him in tier 3 alongside our Aatrox and Maokai. Alright, we're on Nocturne now. Nocturne would probably Nocturne's okay, but the thing is, he doesn't do very well versus certain matchups. His ulti is a really long cooldown and has a very low radius. Let's actually finish the talk about Nocturne later. Nocturne, okay. So Nocturne, his clear speed is good. His ganks aren't bad early on. His skirmishing isn't bad. He does have a few unfavorable matchups, like against Lee Sin, he kind of gets wrecked. Because like, even if you W his Q, he still has his attack speed slow on his E, and then ult that does a massive amount of damage and just will eventually just out damage you. Okay, let's say you just, you know, W his Q, right? You'll still have his slow and out damage you with his ult. If you do his, if you W his E, he'll Q alt Q you, and that's just a lot of damage right there. It's just a huge burst of damage, and I don't think you'll outburst him or out damage him in that sense. If you out damage or if you W his ult, you might have a good chance, but like he still again has that attack speed slow that kind of screws you. So Lee's not a very good matchup for Nocturne. I think same thing with Pantheon, same thing with Wukong. Those two champions kind of give him trouble. But, I mean, if you get fed, like, you get going, you can easily, you know, there's so many Irelia mains. So many. First pick Irelia, yo. So many Irelia mains. Like, there's legit... in High Challenger, they're all Irelia players. But the problem with Nocturne, well, that's the problem, that he gets out skirmished by a lot of people. Also, his ulti is probably one of the longest cooldowns. It is a very long cooldown and has a very small radius. It gets better over time, like once you get, you know, points in your ult, but for the most part, you know, it's not the greatest. So I'd actually place Nocturne, and again, you have to go Lizard on Nocturne. Feral Flare's just too bad. Like, I don't like Feral Flare at all anymore on any champion, so we're just gonna ban LeBlanc. That champion's annoying. So honestly, I'd place Nocturne probably tier 1.5. He's not awful, but he's just not, you know, anything special. Nunu is an interesting pick. I haven't played Nunu in a while on 4.9, but if I had to assume, if you realize that they've made an update where jungle camps don't give bonus XP anymore, so if you fall behind, it doesn't give you bonus XP for, you know, like, let's say it's 10 minutes into the game. It's not going to give you 10 minutes into the game worth of XP. What's it called? Or it's only going to give you, how do I say this? Okay, before, when you were under-leveled, and you were doing buffs or something, that, you know, spawn, like, let's say you were level 4 and your second red buff spawned, right? You shouldn't be level 4, it should be around level 5 or 6, right? So, because you do your red buff, it'll give you an extra, like, a little bit of extra XP and get you to, like, 5.5 or something like that. It's crazy, or even 6. Sometimes you get 2 levels. So, it doesn't give you bonus XP anymore, so I'd say Nunu's pretty good in that sense, but a lot of the Feral Flare junglers stopped getting played, which Nunu was really good against because he denies attack speed. So, Nunu, I mean, he's still good versus champions like Jax, Tryndamere, and stuff like that for solo queue, but he's a very, very situational pick. I probably wouldn't rate him tier 1 anymore. I'd probably rate him a little bit lower just because Feral Flare kind of stopped, because, like, the thing about Nunu was Feral Flare was a huge thing. Everyone was going Feral Flare. I'm like, okay, I'll just play Nunu, and good luck with your attack speed, you know? So, now I'd say he's about tier 1.5. He's still a situational pick, but he's still, you know, a solid pick if you do pick him. So there's Nunu. Olaf I'm not going to do. Pantheon, he did get his ulti changed a bit, where it's more delayed to land now, but, oh man, can I jungle please? So Pantheon, yeah, he got his slight delay on his ulti. It's just harder to use now. He's still solid, you can still get your ulti on people. It's just harder to use and you need to just adapt to it basically. He's still one of the strongest early game junglers, probably the strongest, yeah, he is the strongest early game jungler pre-level 6, which is very, very good to have as a jungler. Clear speed's not bad, especially when you get some points in your E. And yeah, he has a global ultimate that's not on a huge, like not a super long cooldown like Nocturne's, and late game he's not bad, so overall it's just pretty good. So anyways, let's put Pantheon up here. Alright, we're gonna have to pause the tier list again, but we'll keep going. We're on Rengar next. Cool. There we go. We are on Rengar. Okay, Rengar's interesting. So I started playing Rengar because I saw it played in LCS. I saw Meteos play it and stuff like that. People were asking me about Rengar jungle long ago though, like before that. They were telling me, what do you think about Rengar jungle? And my answer was always, why play Rengar when you can just play Kha'Zix? Now that Kha'Zix is kind of gone, it's like the opposite. Why play Kha'Zix when you can play Rengar is like my answer now. Rengar is kind of like Kha'Zix, but I feel like just a lot better. He kind of has a rough early game, not the strongest early game, but if you can get past that, you know, your level 6 is godly ganks, your clear isn't too bad. His objective control's alright because you can pick someone off. Ganks, again, not that great. Pre-6, post-6 are really good. Matchups, I haven't played too many Rengar games, but I learned some of his matchups, I guess. And he does pretty well. Like, even if you have an unfavorable matchup, you can generally just get away with using, you know, an empowered E. And just get away and just, you know, farm up till you feel like you have the advantage. But overall, I think Rengar's pretty strong. I don't know exactly where to place him right now. It'd be either tier 1 or 1.5 at this point, but I'm not sure which one between the two. Like, I'm trying to think, would I compare Rengar to Kha'Zix, or would I compare him to something like Elise? I think for now I should put Rengar in 1.5 for now. Yeah, I think for now, I think it's a safe assumption to put him at 1.5. This might be updated. To be fair, I honestly probably shouldn't even rate him because I've only played about 10 games of Rengar. So, yeah, we'll see. It might change. Again, this is for solo queue, guys. It doesn't have to do with LCS, OGN, Worlds, or anything. It's for solo queue, what I believe is tier 1, tier 2, whatever. Welcome, Esther Me. Thank you so much for subbing. Again, Benson, thank you also for subbing. Cyanide. Welcome, guys. Alright, so I'm going to put Rengar in 1.5 for now. It's, you know, debatable, but for now, we'll just keep him there. Shaco, honestly, I think Shaco's actually pretty good. I've seen some Shaco mains do work with him, that like 600 LP Shaco mains. Personally, I haven't tried it yet, so I don't feel like I have the you know, credentials to actually rate him. So I'm not gonna rate him, but just know that Shaco is probably high in the list. I wouldn't place him tier 1, but probably around this area. I'm not gonna place it just because I don't play it, because I don't think that's fair. Shen, okay, screw all these. Shyvana, I feel like Shyvana you can still do well with. You can just farm up with Feral Flare, because I personally hate Feral Flare now because it has really bad base stats. not very cost efficient, and the heal scaling is completely removed from Feral Flare. So you could farm up the Shyvana with Feral Flare, but you're losing jungle pressure, and you're basically hoping that your team doesn't crumble until late game. So I don't really think it's that good of a play style. So if I were to play Shyvana, it would probably be around here as well. Hecarim, Shyvana basically in the same tier, so we'll play Shyvana there. Skarner, I haven't played Skarner this patch, but I'm just going to place him in here because Skarner right now, let's talk about what's wrong with him. So first off, his W is a ramp up speed and his E is a skill shot slow. There's two problems with this. One, his old slow used to be a Q, radius Q. Now imagine yourself team fighting a Skarner. When you were team fighting, you could be attacking multiple, like you could be facing towards someone and kiting for your AD carry at the same time because it's a circle radius slow. You could be attacking multiple targets. With their E, you're basically forced to position yourself in a certain way. And you can't really have, you don't really have that reliable Skarner kite anymore. UW's a ramp up, so you can just get kited pretty easily and get away from his ulti. Early game, he gets crushed by basically everyone early game. It's kind of ridiculous. Even if you go Lizard, he still kind of gets crushed. His ganks are okay, pre-6 and post-6. Objective control, not the greatest. He doesn't have percent health damage, so. And his ulti, I mean, it's not, you have to run up to the person to use it, so it's not the greatest. So, I don't know. I think Skarner would be placed in tier 3 around with the other support junglers just because he just doesn't really fit in this meta. He kind of just gets crushed by everyone, so. I'm not saying, like, okay, you could be a Skarner main, you could be a Diamond 1 Skarner main, and just be like, well, I have a 55% win rate with Skarner. Yeah, that's true. You can easily do well with a shitty champion, no offense. You can, well, not easily, but you can do well with him. But I'm just telling you, right now, the state that Skarner's in is not very good. So that's just where I'm going to put him right now. I'm not going to do any of these. If you guys really want me to rate Shaco, he'd be up here. He'd honestly be right here. But I don't play him, so I don't know if I don't really have the credentials to rate him. That's my issue with it. If that makes sense. Okay, so we're on to Udyr. Oh, this is gonna be a fun one. Let's talk about Udyr. So Udyr is an interesting champion. You can go Tiger or Phoenix. Tiger generally doesn't farm as well. Phoenix does. Personally, I've seen only Udyrs go Feral Flare now. Like only, even after the nerf. They only go Feral Flare, which kind of has its downside because you're basically farming instead of ganking, which, you know, obviously I don't think is the right way to play. I mean, you can get, you know, you can carry games like that, but if you really, really want to go to the top, I think that it's not the right play style. Objective control isn't that great because he doesn't have any percent health damage. His ganks aren't bad. His skirmishing isn't bad either. He does lose a couple of skirmish matchups, but for the most part, it's not too bad. But here's my main issues with it. Well, let's talk a little bit more about what's good about him. He also has a W, which is a shield, constant shield, you know, 200 health shield that you can spam in fights, which is very, very good in a champion. Almost every champion who has a shield, like spammable shield, is very strong. So I think, you know, Udyr's very good for that. Now let's talk about why Udyr is a bad champion. Not bad, but not tier 1. He gets kited really hard and easily late game. He's almost unusable in team fights late game. That's just the truth about it. Like, if you are doing something in team fights, honestly, you're just facing bad players. Like, no offense. Like, Udyr is very, very kiteable, which makes him not, you know, the greatest pick. Which is why you'll see, you know, certain Udyr players like kind of split push with him because he just isn't that good in team fights. Which is fine. I mean, it's all fun and all, but for, you know, winning the game, you know, you want to pick a team fighter for the most part as a jungler. Now you might be like, oh, well, Udyr can flank. I mean, yes, you can do stuff. You can get away with stuff in lower elo, but if we're talking about solo Q tier list, what champion's good, bad, and, you know, medium and stuff like that, like, Udyr just isn't, like, at the top right now. Now, I'm not going to rate him completely low, because I do think he's still, like, decent-ish. Because he does, again, have that spammable shield. He has constant stuns, if you can manage to get to anybody. He has decent farming. He has good skirmishes, stuff like that. But, again, he does lose some skirmish matchups, so I think I'd have to rate him probably around tier 2. So, around Brand Hacker. Honestly, I feel like it should be like in between these two tiers. Like Udyr should be his own tier. Like I don't think he's the same as Amumu. I don't think he's the same as Kha'Zix, Elise and Nocturne. Well, maybe you could rate him. Like I don't want to rate him this low, and I don't want to rate him this high, if that makes sense. So, I want to make a 1.75. Oh man, let's do it. Hold on. Wait, 1.5. Whatever. Tier 2. I don't want to have a million tiers. Oh dear. Honestly, I can't put him below. I can't put him like. I can't really compare him to these three. I think Udyr is better than all three of these champions, but I don't think he's better than these guys, or even comparable to these guys. So we're gonna keep him there. Sejuani, I'm not gonna rate. I haven't played Sejuani in ages. I played over 100 games of Sejuani season 3, or season 2, but yeah, just not anymore. Vi. So weird, it's muted. Oops. Vi, now here's an interesting thing about Vi. She kind of got slight nerfs, and kind of people stopped playing her, but I think people have noticed that if you've been playing Vi, she doesn't seem as strong as she used to be. Problem with Vi right now is pre-level like 6, you're basically like a walking human punching bag. You basically lose every single matchup unless you're like godly at Vi, which like I used to be pretty good at Vi, like flash Qs and stuff like that, but for the most part she loses most of her matchups. You can easily outplay Vi early on. So that's one of her biggest flaws. She does have really high AD scaling on her abilities. Her ulti did get a 20-second cooldown nerf recently, which kind of sucks, so you can't use her ult as often as possible. Her late game's not bad, but the main thing about Vi is she is a melee champion, and I feel like, especially with the addition of Braum and other champions, like I feel like Braum does really well versus melees like Vi in the jungle, or not as like Braum in jungle, but like in team fight, you know, Vi goes in, just gets kind of Braumed. And just like, you know, Lee Sin just kind of wrecks Vi unless Vi like catches out Lee Sin, which is possible. But for the most part, I wouldn't rate Vi the same as these champions, just because I don't think she's as strong as them, just because of her early game. Her ganks early game are okay, but still, you know, there's a lot of other choices, I guess. The other champions are more appealing for what they offer. So I would rate her, honestly, around this area too, 1.5. So she's still good, but yeah, not anywhere close to this good, in my opinion. 1 second. Okay. What am I looking for? Alright. Now we're on to... I'm not going to do Volibear because I don't play Volibear. Same thing with Warwick. I don't play Volibear or Warwick. I haven't seen these two champions be played in forever. In Diamond 1 and Challenger, they're never played, so I can't really comment on them. Wukong, still tier 1 champion. The only nerf Wukong has received at all was his Q got armor shred reduction early levels. Late levels, it's the same. Welcome, Dark Lord Satan 1. Thank you so much for subbing. Welcome, dude. Wukong his only nerf was his. Wait, actually no, he did get a slight nerf, I think, to his ult, or was it I think it was actually more damage to his ult. I'm not 100% sure. There's maybe a tiny little change on something else too. But the biggest change was his Q got like a 25 or 20% armor pen reduction early game. That's kind of tough because it reduces his early skirmish ability, but he's still really strong. Only issue I have with him is he doesn't do very well versus Lee anymore. He doesn't do well versus Evelyn. So he just kind of gets out skirmished by both of them and kind of gets screwed by those two. But for the most part, Wukong is a really strong pick. Amazing team fight, amazing clear, pretty good objective control. Because I mean, you have Wukong ulti in a closed area. If you're like trying to force a dragon or a baron, it's really strong. Has really good synergy with champions like Yasuo and Lulu, and just really good overall. I can't really say much more about him. His ganks aren't bad, pre-6, post-6 they're a little bit better, but again, you just have to get good at his W, like Wing out of the vision range. Like if you're Wing and they see your clone, you're not ganking correctly. If you're Wing and they don't see your clone, then you're ganking correctly. Yes, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get into range, but it's just what you're going to have to do as Wukong, and you just get better with experience on that. But I definitely think Wukong is definitely still a tier 1 champion, even, you know, regardless of that little nerf that he got. Xin. was actually really popular when the Feral Flare came out. I'm not rating Yi, by the way. Screw Yi. I don't care if like I don't play Yi, so I'm not rating him. But if you wanna, you can, yeah. Xin is still pretty strong. I wouldn't say as strong as Jarvan. Really big issue with Xin is if you fall behind, you're screwed. That's basically it. He's very, very difficult to, I guess, come back from deficit. Also, he is pretty strong early skirmish. His clear isn't bad once you start getting points in your E. His level 2 is not bad, which is good. His level 6 is a little bit better, but you know, there's a lot of other champions who are stronger at 6 than Xin. For example, Wukong. His objective control isn't the greatest. He doesn't really have % health damage unless you count his ultimate, but you know, it's not really what you're looking for with objective control. Liu counters Wukong, but Wukong is higher tier, much logic. That has nothing to do with tier. Wukong overall is a better champion. Lee Sin just does well versus Wukong early. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that because, you know, let's say, what's a good example? Want to use a really good example. Okay, it doesn't say that Jarvan's higher tier, that he beats out Lee Sin every single time. You can easily still kill Jarvan as Lee Sin, right? But the main, and same thing with Nocturne, you know, you can still kill him. But the main thing is Wukong is a very strong team fighter, offers a lot more, which is why he's a higher tier champion in my opinion. Xin, again, we'll go back to Xin. Yeah, he's still pretty good, but he got nerfed a long time ago, like long time ago, where he used to be very strong, like super ridiculously strong. He got nerfed, and he's still been pretty good ever since. But with the Feral Flare edition, he started getting more popular, got a lot stronger. Feral Flare nerf, he's never seen as a Feral Flare jungler anymore, at least I've never seen it. Or actually I saw it yesterday, it did okay, but for the most part it was like, it's still pretty disappointing, Feral Flare. So generally you're just forced to buy Lizard, and you can still get Kyrian in fights, but for the most part Xin still a solid champion. So I wouldn't rate him too low. I'd say he's honestly probably around the same area as this. Xin would probably be still tier 1.5. Yeah, still solid. I mean, he offers knockups, slows, what's it called? A huge, you know, his ult kind of like disperses an enemy team. Like you can do really, like if you're really good at Xin, you can make his ult like do work in fights. So, but yeah, I still loses some matchups and stuff like that. I'm thinking that I need to like lower a couple of these champions. Amumu still high. Kha'Zix, Lee, Nocturne. I'm thinking Nunu should be reduced. I'm thinking Nunu is going to be here, actually. I'm lowering Nunu. I don't know, with the Feral Flare not being kind of existent, I think Nunu's a little bit worse. I know the jungle changes happen, but I really don't feel them, so until maybe they become more significant, I think Nunu's still going to be there. Zac, I did play Zac recently, so I will put him somewhere. I think Zac is worse than every single champion you see on this list right now. And that's pretty harsh, but I really do. Problem with Zac is he has pretty slow clear now, ever since the nerfs to his damage. His ganks are pretty awful until about level 5. If you're putting points in E, you'll have about 3 points in E or something like that at level 5, which it becomes decent. You can at least get into like the lane with it. Level 6, his tenacity got removed, his damage got reduced on his ult, which really sucks for him. And just overall, like, he gets bullied by almost every single jungler. Like, every jungler can outdamage him early. And the only thing he kind of offers that's unique is, yeah, his passive. But for the most part, I think Zac's a pretty poor champion. Even if you get super fed on him, like, you still don't do enough damage to become a threat. You could go Spectral Wraith on Zac and haunting guys and stuff like that, or just Spectral Wraith and just straight tankiness, but I still don't think he does enough damage comparable to other champions. I mean, if I wanted to be, like, generous, I'd put him in tier 4, but I honestly think Skarner, Nautilus, Malphite, Aatrox are both all 4 better than him. So, I'd place him really low. And now you might say, oh, you just don't play Zac. Trust me, I've played a lot of Zac, so, like, just to show people that, like, you know, I'm not just saying, like, I hate Zac because I don't play Zac right now, but you gotta, you know, Season 2, games played, or Season 3, games played. Zac was my 4th most played with over 120 games or something like that, so I did play quite a bit of Zac. But now it just does not feel right. He needs a damage boost, a big damage boost. His clear speed is pretty, it hurts from it. And if you start maxing your E, which is your ganking tool, you're gonna hurt your clear speed, because maxing your W gives you a faster clear speed. Also, picking up his blobs are just such a nuisance now, because they made it so like sporadic, so... Let's place... I think Zac, honestly... Like, he gets bullied also by, like, every... Like, Tier 1 champions will crush Zac. Tier 1.5 can probably bully him, besides Amumu. I mean, Amumu doesn't really bully other champions, he just scales really well and does really well in 2v2s. Udyr Nunu can bully Zac. Basically, every Tier 3 and up can bully Zac. I'd place... Do I want to place him? Let's just place him Tier 4. I'm not going to add another one, but I think that's being generous, honestly. I don't think Zac is very good at all. So, that's what I think about that. Did I miss anything? Well, let me see if I missed anyone. Now, again, everything here is debatable. This is just opinion. And it's just for solo queue. So, this is has nothing to do with competitive play. Cho'Gath I'm not going to rate because I haven't played Cho'Gath in a while. Mundo, same thing. Diana, I haven't played enough. Fizz, I don't play. Gragas Jungle is dead. He's only good in support and top lane now, because top lane sustain and support he just has CC and stuff. Gets really tanky. Jax I haven't played, so I can't rate it. Kale I don't play, so I can't rate it either. Master E, same thing. I haven't played it since the Feral Flare nerf. Morg could be rated, but I don't play it. Olaf hasn't even been a champion for the longest time now, like no one's been playing Olaf. 2H I don't jungle it either, so like you can jungle a lot of champions like Riven, Zed, stuff like that, but I just don't play it, and I don't think it's like really worth like rating, if that makes sense. Shaco, again, if I were to play Shaco, it'd be up here, but I'm not gonna rate it just because I don't play it. But from what I've seen, Shaco is actually pretty high, like it'd be 1.5-ish. Sejuani I haven't played in forever, so I'm not gonna rate it either. Like, these champions I've actually played recently, so Sejuani I haven't played in a long time. Sion, not gonna rate it. Yeah, I guess that's about it for the tier list. Again, I don't play volley, so I can't really rate volley. But, I kind of want to put Shaco now, I really do. Screw it, I'm just gonna put Shaco here. Again, this is opinion. He's just really strong. He can carry early game really hard. He does his buffs the fastest out of anyone. Like, he can get double buffs and still be in time to counter your second buff. So like, let's say you start blue, he can do his red, blue, and then get to your red, you know, before or at the same time you do, and just kind of kill you there, which is really good if you get the right runes and masteries and stuff. Rammus, I don't think should be rated. I don't think Rammus is viable. And it's really bad and really like sad hearing it, because like I used to be a Rammus main, like I used to be a Rammus main, even more than Elise. But the problem with Rammus is Mikkel's Crucible is too cheap, way too cheap, and it completely counters Rammus. Yes, it does have a long cooldown, but a good team will make Rammus completely useless. So that's why I'm not gonna rate. I'm not gonna rate Rammus. If I were to rate him, it'd be probably around here, tier 4 or lower. Now again, just because it's a tier 4 champion, I'm not saying you can't go legendary on this champion and carry the game with it. I'm just saying, for the most part, Nautilus is not as good as Hecarim. Hecarim's not as good as, you know, Udyr. Udyr's not as good as, you know, Amumu or Elise. Elise's not as good as Elise or Eve, in my opinion, for solo queue. So this is, you know, the placement so far. So yeah, I'm just gonna stick with these. Warwick I haven't played either, so I'm leaving out some champions, but again, this is all debatable. I don't play Warwick, guys, so I haven't seen a Warwick in ages. I actually haven't seen a Warwick since patch like 4.7 or 4.8 or whatever the Feral Flare patch was. Alright guys, that's going to be the tier list for now. I'm going to post the entire tier list and explanations for everything on YouTube.